Mr. President, I have said it before and I'll say it again, Yucca Mountain is dead. Let me repeat myself. Yucca Mountain is dead. And I'll continue to come to the floor until we, as a country, move past this ill-conceived project. Last week, I had the opportunity to testify before the House Energy, Commerce Committee's Environmental Subcommittee regarding draft legislation to effectively restart the licensing process for Yucca Mountain. And while I appreciate the opportunity to testify, in order to assure that Nevadans' voices on this issue are heard, I am concerned that we're using valuable time and taxpayer resources to hold a hearing on a closed issue. Let me say this one more time, Mr. President. Yucca Mountain is dead. Instead of focusing our efforts on reviving failed proposals of the past, I'll continue to encourage my colleagues and the administration to focus on policies of the future. Failure to do so will have real economic, environmental, and national security implications for all Nevadans. This afternoon, I want to focus on the economic impact that resuming licensing activities for Yucca Mountain as a nuclear waste repository will have on my home state. As many of you know, Yucca Mountain is located just 90 miles from the world's premier tourist, convention, and entertainment destination in Las Vegas, Nevada. Last year, Las Vegas welcomed nearly 43 million visitors. Over the past decade, the greater Las Vegas area has been one of the fastest growing in the U.S., with a population that now exceeds 2.1 million people, according to an estimate from the U.S. Census Bureau. Any issue with the transportation of nuclear waste to the site or issues with storage there would bring devastating consequences to the local, state, and national economies. Mr. President, it begs the question, would you want to come to Las Vegas knowing that high-level nuclear waste is being transported very likely through the heart of the Strip? Let me outline for you the vitally important role tourism plays for the greater Las Vegas area. This industry accounts to close to 44% of the local workforce, providing close to $17 billion in local wages. Moreover, tourism is an estimated $60 billion in local impact. Without tourism, every household in southern Nevada would pay close to $3,000 more in taxes. It's a significant amount of money to individuals and families working to make ends meet. And people visit not only as tourists, but as business professionals for conferences, for meetings, and trade shows, generating another $12 billion in local economic impact. Las Vegas has 3 of the 10 largest convention centers in North America and has been the #1 trade show destination for 23 consecutive years. This economic driver within the state is a critical component of another related industry which is vitally important to the state of Nevada, namely the gaming industry. This industry in Nevada alone supports over 430,000 jobs, pays more than $18 billion in wages, and generates close to $18 billion in federal, state, and local tax revenues. Mr. President, the reason I draw your attention and our colleagues' attention to these numbers is for the fact that Yucca Mountain will have very real negative economic consequences for Nevadans. I'm proud to come to the floor today to stand with many concerned citizens, many small business operators, and the casino operators in opposition to any attempt to restart the repository licensing process. I'll continue to work tirelessly to ensure the radioactive waste is never stored anywhere near the world's entertainment capital, also known as Las Vegas. Rather, I encourage my colleagues to partner with me on identifying viable alternatives for the long-term storage of nuclear waste in areas that are willing to house it. I come to the table with a solution to our nation's nuclear waste program and am proud to have introduced bipartisan legislation on this issue. My legislation will allow the construction of a nuclear waste repository only if the Secretary of Energy has secured written consent from the governor of the host state, affected units of the local government, and affected Indian tribes. This is consistent with the consent-based siting initiative to site waste storage and disposal facilities initiated by the Department of Energy in the late 2015. This open process ensures that a state has a meaningful voice in the process and that no state will be forced to accept nuclear waste against its own will. Identifying communities that are willing to host for long-term repositories rather than forcing it upon the states that have outright opposed such a site for decades, let me repeat, for decades, is the only viable solution to our nation's nuclear waste problem. Failure to do so will just result in decades more of litigation, wasting more taxpayer dollars without solving the problem at hand. Thank you, Mr. President.